It's been a long time since I've done one of these video things, Sean, so I've got a couple ideas of some things maybe you can work on at home this week, whether you're just quarantining or whether you, hopefully you're not going to get sick, but hopefully you'll still feel like making some music on the piano. So do one of these that you can. I'm going to tell you about a couple of things in the lesson book, and then I'll make a different video where we could do a couple of the theory exercises we haven't really had time to do the ear training for a while. So I thought this might be a good opportunity where I could play some of those and you could kind of figure out. Looks like we have some work with triplets and some work with 6/8 time that we haven't done with listening. So that's the plan, 2 videos. So I'd like you to get your lesson book out first of all and just push pause until you have it open. I'd like you to open to page 46. We're going to talk a little bit about playing a lead sheet. So playing a lead sheet is a really important skill piano players need to learn how to do nowadays, because so much of our music is available on the internet with either lead sheets or chord charts, and you'll find, particularly if you start doing any playing at church where you're doing worship music, they oftentimes will just give you a chord chart. So learning how to play a chord chart, which is more what guitar players work off of, but we piano players can do that too. It's easier to start with a lead sheet. And so I think in previous books we would have worked on learning both this concept and the other one I want to show you today, but I don't feel like we went through the whole blue book, which was a couple of books ago. So if some of this is review, just bear with me. But a lead sheet, you're going to notice on page 46, it kind of just gives you an idea about a lead sheet. Is just, they give you melody and they give you chords labeled above the top of the melody, and then it's your job to just kind of improvise and put those chords in along with the melody. So the chords you're going to be using in this song, and this is just the regular traditional Greensleeves, which is also, what child is this? But you are going to see that the chords you're going to be using are just right there, the A minor, the G, the F, and the E major. And you can practice those blocked chords first of all as a warm-up. I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time with the broken chords at this point. I'd go over to the lead sheet page. You're going to notice that the chord symbols are listed in red along the top of the melody. So whenever we deal with a chord chart, the first step is to learn the melody by itself. You're going to notice that there's a little bit of fingering you have to figure out. Crossing over. Get that so you're really comfortable with that, because you're going to ask your brain to do something a little bit more challenging here. And then what we're going to do is take those blocked chords that we did, and eventually when we're comfortable with the melody, you're going to add a chord every time you see one of the red labels, and at the beginning of every measure. So you're going to notice in measure 1 it says A minor above. Measure 2 doesn't have any lettering above it, so that means you're going to just keep playing in A minor until you get to the next measure, which says G. There again, you're going to do 2 Gs, 2 Fs, and 2 Es. So it should sound like this. Another one. Now I'm shifting to G. So notice, unless they give you another one, you're going to play the same chord in any unmarked measures that you did in the measure before it. And the rule of thumb is just go ahead and play one chord at the beginning on beat 1 of each one of the measures. If that becomes really easy for you after practicing, you can also then go back and do the little chord pattern which they give you on page 46. So you just make it a little bit fancier. Like that. So that's how you would do those 2 pages. Then I would like us to look at the chromatic scale. I don't believe that we did this in those Sideways books. I know they introduced it, but I don't remember you practicing a chromatic scale, but I could be wrong. in this book, this unit 6 is going to be dealing with chromaticism, which just means we're moving by half steps up and down. Notice as it's marked down there on page 48, you've got the sharps as you're going up, flats as you're going down. You're going to work on slowly, operative word, slowly, because chromatic scales have way different fingering than the other scales. You're just using 1s, 2s, and 3s, and the only time you pop a 2 in is when you have the 2 white keys next to each other. So I need you to really study that picture at the top. Let me turn the camera around so you can see it. So I need you really studying this so that you can see here are your 2 together. And they're asking, you can start a chromatic scale on any key. They're asking you to start on E and go from E to E. You're going to start on a C for the left-hand scale, and you're working your way down to C and back up. Notice that our longest finger, our 3, is what we're asking to play the black key. Makes a lot of sense, really. So I need you to work very carefully on getting this fingering right from the start. That's why I need you to do it slowly. These are really fun to play fast once you get the hang of it, but you have to get the fingering down carefully. One way you can do that is to turn to your technique book, and I'm going to ask you to open to page 28. Again, you can pause the video, open to page 28, and then I'll talk about the exercises. Page 28, they take small chunks to start with to show you how to do chromaticism, and then they kind of branch it out a little bit more. Notice that they will ask you, exercise 1, you're supposed to repeat 4 times. Exercise 2, 4 times. Exercise 3, 3 times, and so forth. So look at the first repeat bar there. It'll tell you how many times you're supposed to go over. Notice which clef mark is there too, because exercise 1 is bass clef. Exercise 2 is treble clef. It's not until exercise 5 that you would try to put the hands together. And again, they're going to give you that practice where you're going to be working with those 2 white keys to begin with, which I think strategically working just on the page 48 in lesson book and page 28 in your technique book should help you get the fingering down and get the feel for how to work in half steps. I don't necessarily want you starting the snowflake rag because I'd like to help you with that, but if you'd like to and you're working along and you really are quarantined 14 days and we don't get to see each other, you could also start working on page 29. You'll notice that because you're in a choir, this is the structure of what we do when we're doing those little warm-ups, so you have, but right now they're giving you just a structure of moving by fifths, and we're going to work on that technique. Remember how we would drop in and then lift out. That's what that scoop is. So you're going to drop, 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 like that, and then eventually after you get feeling pretty good about it, you can add the pedal. It does give you an option of trying to do the same thing with the left hand and then trying to do the hands together. So see how that works for you. But I think I know about my guy who's in choir, Nicholas, who's in the choir at Northridge. He got to, I don't know if he does it anymore, but when he was in middle school, got to play some of the warm-ups when they had a sub one day and he couldn't play the piano. Nicholas could play all the warm-ups. So it might be something that if you have it in your ear, and once we learn how to move by chromatics like this, it should be kind of easy for you to figure those out. So lesson book, I want you doing the lead sheet and then looking at learning the chromatic scale. Technique book, I want you working on page 28. I know I assigned you the Scale Monster, so I'm assuming I'm going to get to hear that played amazingly well when I finally do get to see you again. So that's technique. And then I am going to go ahead and make you another video for some theory.